Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regular town council meeting for Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. The opening prayer will be given by Pastor Will Marati. Please rise.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for the privilege of living in this wonderful country, and notwithstanding the frustration and the polarization and the accusation we're all experiencing right now, it's still the best place on the planet to live, and we thank you for that. We pray for our leaders tonight. We ask that you give them wisdom and clarity and direction and the ability to come together to make decisions that are beneficial for the taxpayers and residents of this town we love so much. We thank you, and we pray you bless Wallingford, continue to give us good people, good finances, and mild winter weather as you have. And we thank you and we praise you in your awesome and holy name. Amen.
Amen. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Fishbein.
Here.
Laffin.
Here.
Marone.
Here.
Morgenstein. Here. Shortell.
Here.
Tata.
Here.
Testa.
Here.
Zandri.
Here.
And Chairman Cerrone.
Here. All present and accounted for. On to item 3, the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve or accept consent agenda items A, C, E through I, and J as corrected.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The consent agenda as moved has passed. Item 3B, the fire department. We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve a transfer in the amount of $200,000 from regular salaries and wages to replacement pay for the fire department.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. Please remind us who you are for the record.
Good evening, Richard Heigert, Fire Chief.
Good evening, Joe Sutton, our Deputy Fire Chief.
What's going on here?
Good evening. What we have is when our budget was created this past year, we couldn't make guesses on what the contract negotiations would lead to. Luckily, they've led to what we're going to transpire, or what will transpire as of July 1st, with a different staffing model. This year, and we anticipated into next year, would have been a transition from the staffing of 63 fire personnel down to 56. And in that process, our wages would be in the appropriate lines. We got to the staffing level of 56 already. So what that did was we have extra money in the wage line, the regular wages, but we don't have enough in replacement pay. This request is just to move the money from general wages into the replacement pay, because we're still staffing the trucks the same way, but we have less people to do so. So that's strictly just a move from one line to another.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the council? Any questions from the public? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Fishbein.
Yes.
Laffin.
Yes.
Marone.
Yes.
Morgenstein. Yes. Shortell.
Yes.
Tata.
Yes.
Testa.
Yes.
Zandri.
Yes.
And Chairman Cerrone.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Yes, it does. On to item D. Can we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept 10 ballistic vests valued at $7,500 from Wallingford Energy LLC for the fire department.
Second.
Moved and seconded. What's going on?
So with this, mid-year, we started working with law enforcement actually a couple years back to address acts of violence. And one of the things that we were doing is we're coming up with standard operating procedures for our personnel to integrate with law enforcement, with them reviewing our SOPs, how we integrate with them, and it was determined that there's a level of protection that our membership should have in those type events. It's much less it's a different grade of protection than what law enforcement handles because our role is much different. So this is a very fortunate donation from Wallingford Energy LLC to, again, mid-year, give us a seed of money and equipment to start towards this goal. We will be having a little bit more in this type line in the capital budget request moving forward, but these 10 vests get us moving forward to protect our members. So that's, we were lucky to get this donation, and that's what it's for.
Thank you. Councilor Fishbein, this is your item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening,
Good evening.
gentlemen. So, my understanding is that this is a new situation. We haven't had these vests in the past.
We actually did way back in the probably 30 years ago when we had some gang activity in town. There were some shootings and things. We were wearing bulletproof vests at that time. But after that, when they became obsolete and or needed to be replaced, we never did so. The need really wasn't there. The acts of violence that is happening across the country, and it's become a very fresh subject. And EMS predominantly, not necessarily fire as much, but our role is to go help take patient removal from a scene. So our role is not to get involved with law enforcement, but it's a back support role. So with that, there's a level of protection that makes our membership safer, still in that same kind of concept. And it doesn't matter where the act of violence would be. Our mission is to try getting patients that are viable out.
And when, I would expect that since this wasn't a budgetary item last budget, when was the decision made administratively to have these vests in the department?
It came about during the year, so after budget was prepared, but as we started training, we went to some training events in West Haven with their law enforcement and fire. We worked last year with our Wallingford PD and did some exercises over the summer at the high schools and things. And it was during that process of, again, working with them, jointly training, that we realized there's this need. So it again came after the budget preparation.
So how did Wallingford Energy, whoever they are, come to know, before we did, bless you, that there's this need by the Wallingford Fire Department?
Actually, Wallingford Energy has contributed to us in the past, both us and law enforcement. They've supported us in other things, so rescue equipment and things like that. So basically what they do is they approach us with an interest to donate some money or a product, and then we tell them what our need is. So we actually developed the knowledge of the need, and then we didn't need any rope and rigging, that type of equipment that's predominantly what they normally donate. So this was our need at the time, and that's how the relationship happened.
And who are they? Who is Wallingford Energy LLC?
PPL?
Yeah, Wallingford Energy LLC runs one portion of the power plant over there.
It used to be PPL Energy. So
They've
it's just
changed
one of
names,
the
yeah.
generators in town.
So do we know who the principals of this entity are?
I do not.
So is this a facility that the fire department, through let's say the fire marshal's department, would inspect for compliance with statutes and rules?
I don't believe so. Generally, it's under PURA. It's a bigger, the marshal's office doesn't really have jurisdiction they will in manufacturing, multifamily occupancies, things like that, but I don't believe it's something that we've addressed. They have donated, again, mostly rescue equipment, so we've done training things with them because it's pertinent to their, our role with helping their facility.
I'm worried about the possible ethics situation here when, are you telling me that the facility that's in Wallingford that this entity apparently operates in is not inspected?
Not to my awareness, but I don't know that it is or isn't. Again, it's a generator facility, so I don't know if it falls under their jurisdiction.
Why?
I would have to find that out.
Okay, I thought all, but, so, and we have no idea, I mean, I looked up on Concord who these, I mean, I can't tell from this who's involved with this group. Obviously Wallingford, I would expect there's some sort of connection to a human being in this town. I'm just concerned that we have donations coming from a phantom, with all due respect, somebody that we can't identify. We don't know who is a principal, is affiliated with this. I totally understand the need. It's not that at all. But, you know, when somebody makes a donation to government and then there's not a lot of information here for me, so, I thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. I see hands from Attorney Farrell and from Mr. Bose.
You sure you don't want to start? No, go ahead, I'll start.
This is actually the gas turbines that are part of the Pierce plant. We lease part of it out to them. It's out-of-state corporation. I believe it's still part of Duke Energy. My understanding is there's no one there. When ISO New England tells them to come online, down in Philadelphia, they press a button. That's the end of it. Of big investors, but it's at the Pierce plant. No, it's in back of the Pierce plant. It leases part of the property that was the Pierce plant.
When that agreement was made, gosh, 99 or something like that, law might speak better to that, that operation was taken over by Pennsylvania Power and Light, PP&L, and they installed 5 turbine engines, and turbine engines and the related infrastructure to generate peaking power when called upon by the federal government. Several years back, maybe 3 years ago now, I believe, could be 2. That was, maybe a decade or so ago, that was sold by Pennsylvania Power and Light to a company called LS Power. LS Power now, I believe, has created a subsidiary which has now put 2 more turbine type of plants, I should say operations into that plant and the related infrastructure. So it is either LS Power or LS Power created a company called Wallingford Energy LLC, I believe. So.
Thank you. Councilor Testa.
No, I'm going to pass.
If there's nothing else from the council, any questions or comments from the public? Yes, sir.
Yes, Bill Comerford, 5 Broadview Drive. To Mr. Fishbine's point, I didn't realize this, but it's kind of scary if that's the case. Nobody comes by and inspects. That it seems like somebody might be vulnerable if there's nobody there to oversee what is there, because it's not like it's a little mom and pop's shop. So, Mr. Bose, you made the statement, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's pretty much hands-free. Somebody pushes a button, turns on. I would just like some type of, whoever statement, I'm sorry, Mr. Farrell, I apologize. That's kind of scary, especially knowing that the fire department isn't involved with it.
I wouldn't consider that authoritative, and I suspect it's a polite oversimplification. I suspect the plant is properly manned.
Seeing the fire marshal or the fire chief is here, is it something we can potentially look into? So, because they clearly don't know that they do or don't inspect it, and now it gives us at least the opportunity to at least look into it. Thank you.
Would you be willing to look into that for us?
Absolutely, I will. And we do train there, and each of our shifts, the 4 shifts, we all do tours there on an annual basis. So we do walk through and have familiarization.
Thank you. Councilor Fishbine?
No, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I'm not concerned about the trading of favors or anything here. I mean, ultimately, the fire marshal inspects like every building in town, right? So you could argue that any company or organization in town that donates anything to the town could be rooting some way or another, even back when the fire marshal used to be appointed by the town council, be doing it for a favor. And I just don't think that's I don't think that's a thing, and I certainly don't think that our fire marshal or our fire department would be so persuaded by the donation of 10 vests to compromise entire career's worth of safety training in order for some sort of bias or unfair passage of an inspection. So I don't think that's a thing. I'm not at all concerned about it with you directly supervising the fire marshal any different than when the fire marshal wasn't under the council. So I'm totally in favor of this.
Thank you. Councilor Fishbein.
You know, I'm wrestling with this because I totally got what's been said. It's just, let me ask, this is only for 10 ballistics vests. What are your intentions going forward? Because I know, you know, if there was a significant event in town, I think you'd perhaps have more than 10 firefighters responding.
Our goal is to have a total of 16, and the balance would be in this upcoming budget request.
So why didn't Wallingford Energy purchase 16?
They bought 10 because that's within the amount of money that they had planned on donating. So we basically fit our need into whatever dollar amount they had an interest in donating. So if they had $10,000, we would have bought more vests, but their goal was around the $7,500 donation, so we fit that.
And are you aware that recently the police chief was before us about lower rates on vests like this?
Theirs is actually a much different vest and different need.
Yeah, understood.
Yes.
But have you spoken with the chief about utilizing the benefits of that other company and getting vests through them?
Yeah, we went out to bid for, we solicited prices for these, so we know that this is, again, it's not apples to apples. But with that, we found the cheapest price for the most appropriate protection that we were looking for.
Yeah, I believe the company that the chief was dealing with, there's different levels of
Correct.
the same vest.
Yeah, we definitely had that same conversation to compare, to make sure we had the best vest for the money.
Okay. I do have a significant level of trust in your department, so I'm going to be in favor of it. I just, I didn't know who this group was, and I couldn't tell from Concord, and if they had some large facility in town that, I couldn't tell from the backup. So, given that apparently there's no people, it's that one facility, I'm a little bit more comfortable, but I thank you for coming tonight and answering the question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. There's nothing else. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Fishbein,
Yes.
Laffin,
Yes.
Marone,
Yes.
Morgenstein,
Yes.
Shortell,
Yes.
Tata,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zandri,
Yes.
Chairman Cervoni,
Yes.
and the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On to item 5, the public question and answer period. Mr. Gross.
Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. To the chair, last meeting you had a discussion on possibly opening a new commission, but it was tabled, and there was discussion that if you voted on it and it failed, that it couldn't come back. Is that the way I understood it? Or
I don't recall that being a
Well,
part of the
it-
discussion. I think that was a concern that was expressed by somebody who
Correct.
commented.
so is it true, or is it, so if it was voted down, could it have been brought back up again?
If it was brought back up differently, it might have been able to.
And differently meaning, well, still a commission's commission?
There could have been some difference in the proposal that could have brought it back. My understanding is that there's going to be some attempt to meet with some of the administrative staff at the electric division to discuss their program, and then the item will likely come back before us.
All right, so if something comes before you and you vote it one way or the other, it has to change to some degree. So if it's voted down, then it would have to change in some manner to be able to bring it back to you.
That would be reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, may I just point something out?
on Robert's rules, if a motion fails, it can always be brought back, but only by the majority part, the winning side, if you will. And that's any motion at any time. It can be reconsidered as long as the side that voted in favor of it or against it, one of those people brought it back up. That's just Robert's rules.
Right, so if it was a 5-4 vote against, one of the fives had to
Yes.
forward it and then had to get the majority to agree to that.
Yes.
And it could have been the ones who voted against it, or voted for it still,
Pretty clear.
as long as you get the majority in the vote again. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Testa. Mr. Comerford?
Bill Comerford, 5 Broadview Drive. Mayor, last time I was here, I asked you about the minutes of the cemetery. Did you happen to get a hold of them to see if they would correct what you said were an error?
No, I have not reviewed the cemetery minutes.
Okay, I read them and submitted them. Do you plan on asking them for a correction or no?
I hadn't planned on it, no.
Okay, and as far as the unmarked graves, did you reach out to them for that?
I haven't spoken to them with regard to that, no.
Okay, the cemetery building that remains inside the wall, what do you know about any repairs that were done to it, especially knowing that the former president of the association stated, in my opinion, on November 12, 2013, the building is in desperate need of repair and that the roof will probably cave in. Further, the same president's application for funding to the state, it states in part, the cemetery is served by a garage office building over 100 years old and is in need of major repairs. As mayor, who did you report these concerns to, and who repaired them, who applied for the permits and funding associated with these repairs?
I'm not familiar with those issues. I think we have people from the cemetery here, the president is here, and perhaps he can answer.
Okay, but you as the top administrator that oversees the building that's owned by the town, is supposed to be maintained by Public Works. Wouldn't that be the normal course of action, that Public Works would do the repairs?
I'm not sure what building you're referring to at this
The
point.
original one that's in the confines of the wall.
Well, as far as I know, it is still being used, and I'm not aware of any repairs being needed to it.
And you're not aware of any of the statements that were made as far as it needed major repairs?
I don't recollect any comments to that regard, no.
Okay, can we find out, seeing the people you said are here?
I think Mr. Gross is here. I think he serves as president.
If he chooses to address.
I wasn't president at that particular time, Bob Gross-Longo Road, and you can reiterate the question. I'd answer, what's the question?
The former president came in front of the town council, in my opinion, November 12th.
I can stop you right there. That's the former president. I wasn't involved in that, so I can't comment on what he said.
Okay, so I don't know if you remember the board of directors, but I think that the person that pretty much is there all the time is here too. Maybe he might be able to answer the question.
What is the question?
The question is, it was stated by the former president that, and it sounds like the basis for the reason why they need a new building. It said, the building is in desperate need of repair and that the roof will probably cave in. Then they also put it in writing to the state of Connecticut asking for $275,000 as part of the application. It says, in part, the cemetery is served by a garage office building over 100 years old, is in need of major repairs. The point is, Public Works owns the building. Any type of major repairs would then be done by Public Works. I've asked Public Works, they have no record. I've asked purchasing, there's no records of anything as far as the statements that they made and the condition of it. I was a member, I was concerned because they alluded to, in my opinion, that the thing can collapse. As a former member, I didn't want to be exposed to any type of liability, especially after making a public statement on November 12, 2013. If you'd like, I have a copy of the tape, if Mr. Cervoni will allow me to play it. He hasn't in the past. My point is, if it was, if the statement was made and it's going on 8 years, number one, why wasn't it fixed? Why wasn't it addressed as a liability? Or is it the fact that there was nothing wrong with it? Because I actually reached out to the building department. The building department went down there, inspected it right after they made the statement, and the report is down at the building department, and it says there's nothing wrong with the building or the roof.
Well, I guess that explains why no work has been done.
So why would they make that statement then?
I don't know what you're referring to as a statement, but your worry about the condition of the building, you've just indicated the building department inspected and found there was no problem. So you shouldn't be worried about the condition of the building then.
Chairman Smolley, will you allow me to play that excerpt from?
No. First of all. Second of all, you've exceeded your time for comment by an individual during public question and answer. And before you go on, I'm going to ask if anybody's going to comment or have a question during this time. If not, I'm just going to ask you to wrap up.
So for face value then, when any organization or any person comes in here and sits there, unless somebody questions the statements that they make, we take it for fact that they're material facts. And then you question them. No one wants to answer the questions. No one wants to be held accountable. And we just refuse to follow up. The mayor, if I ask it, I have to put it in writing. I get the runaround. The same thing with why I can't get an answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Being that there are no other comments for public question and answer, I'm going to close the public question and answer period and move on to item 10. For the record, items 6, 7, 8, and 9 were withdrawn from the agenda. This is a discussion regarding the 350th committee update. Why don't we start with a motion on A?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bose, if I don't say this correctly, please let me know. I move we approve a transfer in the amount of $26,297 from contingency account to the Social Services Wallingford 2020 Celebrations account.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Testa. Good evening.
Good evening.
For the record, if you could remind us who you are.
Christina Mansfield, Wallingford 350 co-chairperson.
Bob Devaney, Wallingford 350 co-chairman, and Mayor Dickinson, councilors and staff, thanks again for having us here again this evening. Seems like it was a short time ago that Christine and I came here in the 1,000 days and said, look, we're getting ready for Wallingford's big birthday. 118 days to go as of today, and Wallingford is preparing for an onslaught of people to come to this beautiful town. Our committees are steadfast with operations going on. Our parade will start on June 20th. We will go into a Faith Day, History Day on Monday, Women's Day on Tuesday, Business and Agriculture on Wednesday, Senior Day, Youth Day, our Jubilee Gala Ball, and our fireworks. And not saying we have a beautiful play coming in front of us. So we're right on the cusp of this.
So tonight, it's an opportunity uniquely to give you a brief update on our planning. We've got literally hundreds of volunteers working across our diverse town, but also to bring forth an opportunity for funding from an advanced standpoint of looking at all the donations that are coming in actively. And of course, you're all invited to be a part of that as well across our stakeholders. But we're looking at the scheduled events and looking at the thousands of pieces coming together in the next 100 days. And we submitted a letter to the mayor, and on behalf of the individuals, the companies, and the founding family descendants that are joining the cause, we are looking at the expenditures coming through from each of the committees. And so tonight is not focused on the allocation that's been given to the parade committee. That'll be a separate consideration and not part of this discussion tonight. There are a few committees that we will seek the advance, and it's broken down by committee on each of the pieces. As an example, the publishing committee, we're publishing a book. Taryn Granucci, Beth Devlin, and a number of committee members have written a book on the moments of history available for sale. And so information like that is available here in the letter. But examples of revenue that will be generated will be after June 1st. And so we do need to pay a few of the invoices ahead of that revenue coming in from book sales, ticket sales for the ball. There are a few items that we do need to prioritize from an event logistics standpoint for each of the items that are listed in this letter. A number of them have already been crossed off. You'll see in the letter that we've literally received gift in kind or donations to offset over $100,000 worth of expenditures already on the non-parade items. And you'll see from literally the 8 days of events from the parade, History and Diversity Day, Business and Agriculture Day, Youth Day, Block Dance, Fireworks, Women's Day, Faith Day, a Merchant Day, Senior Day, the play, the Gala Ball, the commemorative guide that the Record Journal is creating on behalf of us. The sponsorship committee, headed by Liz White and a number of volunteers, are doing a commendable job. But again, the backbone of volunteers doing this, and in fairness to the event and the vendors that we've procured, we do find ourselves in a situation of a timing. And a number of our proceeds from merchandise sales can be booked literally to the day that we sell them. But in some cases, we need some of that advance before June 1st. The good news is that there are a number of expenditures in addition to the donations and the gifts in kind, based on our partnership model that we set up almost 4.5 years ago. The taxpayer expenses have been zeroed out for items like a website. We use Google Sites, a free site. We use the hubcap, which their board from Wallingford Center Inc. has generally donated at zero cost dollars to us. Using a paperless-based committee and Google Drive and technology, we have spent $0 on our tax base on paper. We have no rent. So a number of items that you might have seen 25 and 50 years ago for our rich legacy of centennial celebrations and Jubilee celebrations have been minimized with this centralized approach. So we wanted to answer questions tonight, not only on the event schedules, but obviously on the transactions. I'll remind you that as a town committee, that all of our expenses are centralized through Jim Bowes, through the controller's office. Every dollar that is booked through revenue is managed by the town finance committee and our sound finance jurisprudence. And we also leverage the good efficiencies of the Park and Recreations Department, the Senior Center, and a number of our agencies who are literally organizing the events, as well as countless other organizations across our community like Wallingford Community Women, the YMCA, the Wallingford Library, and the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce to lower the costs of operations and leverage that partnership model. So at this point, we'll answer any questions that you might have on any of the number of items 100 days away. In your package, you should have received, and this comes from Jim, so we'll look to Jim to help answer any questions as well that you might have. This is non-parade focused, so if you do have any questions for John Sullivan, who is doing a commendable job on that side, we will document them and get those answers to you as well, or on any one of the subcommittees for our volunteers.
Questions from the council. Councilor Fishbein.
May I just add something first?
Please do.
Just to add to it, along what Mrs. Manfield had said, the funds are also included in our annual audit as well. So they are subject to our review by our CPA firm who does the independent audit every year. And if you're looking, I believe it's like on page 97 and 96 of that CAFR audit report that we sent to you. It's also on our website. You'll actually see a column for the Wallingford. It's called, what we called it Wallingford 350 a few years ago when we started. So just so that you know that as well.
I might also add just a point of consideration. The mayor of Wallingford, England, has sent his acknowledgements to the town of Wallingford's mayor and town council. So we bring his blessings from Wallingford, England. They are hosting a red, white, and blue floral display in Sisterhood for our Jubilee Week, along with our Wallingford Garden Club. So I'm remiss in not sending you the correspondence through email, but I do bring his good wishes to you. On that note, any questions?
Thank you for your patience, Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we created this entity, if I recall correctly, right?
Yes.
So have you asked for some sort of link on the town website? I'm on the town website. this is a big event. I don't understand why it's not, there's nothing, I got lots of links here, economic development, town tax, utility bills, compost, recycling, solid waste, join CT alerts. Have you asked to have some sort of a nice picture with your logo and that kind of stuff?
We can absolutely we can repeat that request. We have our minutes and all of our pieces there. We'll absolutely bring that to the marketing committee.
Because I would have a link to your site, because I know you have a website.
That's a great,
right?
yep. We'll bring that back.
Okay. And then, one of the things, because I think when it was originally created, we appropriated $7,500. And then, just before Celebrate Wallingford this year, we approved like $15,000, if I recall correctly. I still haven't seen a budget. And the letter that you're referencing is not in our packet. I have an email.
I can certainly check with the mayor's, or with correspondence. That's, it should be.
Oh,
Or a memo, I'm sorry, a memo. Maybe it's a memo right now.
okay, it's the one dated February 4?
Yes, yes.
Chris has.
That's
Okay.
exactly it, yes.
And
Memo,
that shows,
a document?
that has a copy of the calendar, which I thank you for that, because I've gone on the website and looked at that. It was very helpful
Sure.
to me. And then down the bottom, there's anticipated expenses, and that's really what we're dealing with here tonight, right?
Yes, it is.
And that adds up to $26,297. But then I see there's an email in the packet that says that you got $10,000. So is the 10,000 to be subtracted from the 26, or is that a separate item?
That was, it was a late addition, so the residual is 26,000. We had received a $10,000 donation in between the, I think, the 2 weeks of requesting the item be put on the agenda.
Because originally it was 35,000, so it was reduced by 10,000.
Yeah, we're literally getting donations each week. The timing, and again, this is a timing game. We fully expect to generate sponsorships to offset this cost. It's a timing, and we have expenses that have to be paid in the next 6 weeks, and we anticipate the revenue from a number of different sources. I'll resend the budget to you. We'll resend that full pro forma budget, income and expenses. But it's a timing feature. Unfortunately, with being a June event, and with 100 days to go, we've got a few vendors that have to be paid to secure the dates, and literally some of the resources need to have a security deposit just by their contract.
I totally got that, but I just, one of the questions that came up before Celebrate Wallingford when we talked about, buying more promotional materials was the anticipation that at the event you were going to sell the promotional materials and therefore you end up with a net benefit in the bank account, right?
Yes.
So what I'm seeing here is these numbers are being treated as if you have no money in the bank. You're saying these are our expenses.
Yes.
You need to appropriate all of it because we are not paying any of it, which my reasonable assumption is there is no money in the bank. Is that correct?
There is $6,531.44 that has an invoice allocated to it already. So in addition to that, we need an additional $26,000 for the expenditures that are listed in our memo.
So how much, so the $6,000 that's in the bank is appropriated or it's encumbered?
Yes.
That's
okay.
correct.
And these are incremental requests, notwithstanding the $6,531.44. This is an incremental expense for expenditure to cover those aforementioned vendor requests.
So at the end of your projections, do you anticipate being revenue positive or revenue
I
negative?
am hoping, yes, that is our
Both
plan.
hoping.
We are so building such an opportunity for every individual, founding family, and business to make history and make this a revenue positive. Now, as you know, as a town committee, we cannot generate a profit. So it's a balancing act, very carefully, if not to solicit so many donations that we do not want to be a revenue source of incremental revenue to the town. So we're very carefully balancing our expenditures and appropriating the donations that we get in kind to offset the expenses careful balancing act. So we are looking for additional opportunities for sponsors and actively soliciting, but we anticipate at least being revenue neutral or expense neutral. With an opportunity, with a significant, there is a potential to have a revenue potential for non-parade items. Now, the parade is a whole different piece of it that we're also balancing income opportunities. Right now, we have forecasts. I can certainly share those with you, but they're forecasted. But we're keeping a line item of every piece. We are very, very optimistic that this will be an unprecedented opportunity to balance expenses and opportunities for revenue.
Well, not only for your entity, but for businesses in the town, actually, which you aren't going to see other than foot traffic, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So that's the intangible here.
Intangibly is economic development boost. We hope all of Connecticut. In fact, we might talk to you about Metro North, but we want hashtag Wallingford. Everybody in the state and region nationally should be thinking about Wallingford and be viral and trending for that week. We hope this brings bursting already. We're hearing that there are room blocks already being exhausted at hotels. We've got hundreds of descendant families already planning reunions. We've got a visitor center already underway to keep them busy for the week with our museums and our wonderful attractions. Folks, this will be history making in terms of what we bring for economic development opportunities to every business in town. Unprecedented.
And I appreciate that. And I just want to bring it back to the numbers again, okay? Because maybe that explains an aspect of this. Why would we not want it, or why is it undesirable to be revenue positive? Is there a problem because you don't have an EIN?
I'll defer to the council's wisdom on whether you'd like to entertain that opportunity of being revenue positive. We absolutely will enjoy that, but I'd look to your wisdom on that. We were carefully weighing the guidelines of being a town committee.
I think, if you're looking for donations from outside groups, to the extent that it sounds like we're just trying to amass money then to be used for other purposes municipally, that's not a positive. But if it is money that is needed for this celebration, then, everyone can be happy and content with that. So I really, personally, I just don't see why we'd want anyone to think we were trying to raise more money than what we needed.
That's not the case.
Yeah,
that could
really
discourage contributions.
I agree. I just, I haven't seen a budget, and if the goal of the entity is to be revenue neutral, maybe the way you handle things is in a fashion so that would mirror what I see. But okay, it's something I hadn't considered before, but I thank you. In the, how or when, could you email us or email it to Barbara Thompson and then, because I think I asked in November about a budget and I still didn't get anything, so.
Yep.
Sure. I know you weren't here. I don't think, Bob, I don't think you were here either.
No.
So, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Certainly. Councilor Morgenstein.
Thank you. Thank you for all you're doing. So the money that we were asked for before Celebrate Wallingford, was that the parade committee?
No, it
Not
wasn't.
you guys? That was you guys.
That was
for us.
merchandise. It was
Okay.
literally merchandise for Celebrate Wallingford
Yeah.
and the money.
So as Craig has said, we really have not seen numbers. So can you tell me, we gave you $15,000, how much money in sales, how much money came back to us from?
I don't have that. I can certainly email that to you. It'll be part of the budget.
So you don't know whether we sold to break even at Celebrate Wallingford?
Well, we raised. I mean, we sold about $6,500 during those 2 days, those 2 business days. But that money coming back, that $15,000 investment, that money will be paid back, or I should say, the revenue incurred from selling those proceeds will take us right through June. I mean, we in 2 days of a festival. We thought it was actually a really good performance to actually get $6,500. That will take probably through the Jubilee to actually bring that back. It really depends on sales, but I can give you our forecasted breakdown on it, what we priced it out, what we think the markup we would have generated, and then what our projected sales are.
Because the estimate that I recall being given was 9,000 something. So that was not estimated to be your sales over Celebrate Wallingford, but over the entire sale of those products. That-
Oh, for $15,000 expenses, we would, and again, we don't want to belie our profit margin, we would be raising, our forecast was a bit higher than that, a bit higher.
Yeah, my recollection was that there was some specific product amount that was part of that 15,000, and then I couldn't find it today, but that there was some.
If I may, it was, and I beg your pardon because I don't have the exact number, but your memory is very good.
Yeah.
But it's about 11,000.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite as high as
So-
15, but yeah.
Yeah, and that was, the goal was that to support not just Celebrate Wallingford, but the stroll. And those are really our two shopping days, if you will, from a town committee standpoint. And then the Hubcap has the rest of the merchandise, and they're selling every business day as well. So the good news is we're selling every week, literally every day.
We actually have people weekly contacting us to purchase
So we can get that
items.
for you. We'll share the forecasts to the degree that we made the best guesses based on the information we had at the time. We can share that with you, I'm sure.
We will double check that too, because I think we're, not to contradict, but I think we're a little bit over 7,000 in sales on those items as well. So you're getting there, and by the end of June, I'm. You know what, Councilwoman, I'll look that up too tomorrow.
In fact, the merchandise is available for sale at the Hubcap. So if you each want to purchase a cutting edge hat or sweatshirt, you can help us on making.
We have
that
all your
difference.
sizes too, so.
Please do. Please stop by the store. We'd love to see you. Really, the store's open 5 days a week. Liz Landau would love to help you all. I don't see any of you wearing hats or shirts. So the sale's open, $350.
A+ on the sales pitch.
Chairman Cervoni, we're all salespeople for Wallingford. We're all ambassadors today. We're looking for every one of us to be part of this history.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Zandri?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make an add-on comment from prior. Basically, it follows up with what the mayor said. I think anybody making a donation for the event would want to see it go towards the event. If we end up surplusing, I mean, I think the average person is going to understand it's kind of like hitting a moving target if you guys are a little over. But I think that, you know, in the end, if there's a larger sum of money left over, I'm not going to necessarily say that you should just expend it unwisely. But I think that it becomes an issue where, well, gee, I donated X, I donated Y, and there was this bucket of money left, and we're going to transfer it and stick it in the general fund or whatever we might end up doing with it. It kind of goes against the idea of what the person donated for. It's a lot of the same reasons why, even when we're campaigning for office, we can't commingle monies. Listen, I donated to so-and-so, I didn't support so-and-so. If they supported the event, they're going to want to see their money going towards the event. So, I mean, that might offer a last-minute opportunity if you guys are buying giveaways or things like that. Oh, look, we only had enough before to buy 500 giveaways. We can buy 1,000 now. They'll have ways to exhaust that. But I think it's very important, within a degree of, you know, margin of error, that they take all the money that they get and keep it focused on the event. So I kind of echo the sentiments that the mayor made. You know, we really shouldn't be looking at this to be a revenue generator, for lack of a better way to say it. So I just wanted to put my sentiment on that as well.
We would agree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. Councilor Shortell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank you for the greetings from Wallingford, England. I remember, I think I was 12 when they came over here, and it was a big deal. And far be it for me to ever disagree with an opinion shared by Jason Zandri and Mayor Dickinson, but I think that you could make a profit and you could take the proceeds. I think the council should send an emissary to England. I think one of our own should go over there. We should fund that. I think.
Are you volunteering?
No, I think Councilor Fishbein would be perfect. If we could send Councilor Fishbein on a investigative journey to Wallingford, England, he could look into. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
We'll make a note of that, Councilor Shortell. The committee may have to help on that.
So moved. Councilor Testa woke up. There we go.
I'm not going to rule on that motion. Comments from the public? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? This is on A.
Not on fish?
Yes.
Fishbein,
Yes.
Laffin,
Yes.
Marone,
Yes.
Morgenstein,
Yes.
Shortell,
Yes.
Tata,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zandri,
Yes.
Cervoni, Chairman Cervoni.
Well, thank you, yes. Motion on B, please.
If I may just add, I mean, Bob and Christine have been in our office so often, people think they work there. Especially, now Christine, we won't mind. Bob.
But the door is
problem
locked.
with. Well, also there's another, a woman who's doing a lot of the books for them.
Nancy Miller.
Nancy
Nancy Miller.
Miller, she's been splendid. And on the parade side, it's John Sullivan and
Jonathan Judd.
Bobby.
Jonathan Judd.
Thank you. And
Billy
she's-
Salata.
Those folks have been calling us almost every week and coming in and things of that nature. So they, they're really putting tremendous effort just on our side of it, and dealing a lot with our deputy, my deputy Tim Senna, and making sure that's coordinated. So these guys are really spending tons and tons of time in it, from what we can see in our office. I don't know, I can't imagine what you're spending elsewhere, but I just wanted to note that, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, for the record.
Thank you for elucidating the sweat that's being put into this. Motion on B.
I move we approve an appropriation of funds in the amount of $26,297 and $10,000. $26,297 to the revenue transfer in from the general fund, $10,000 to the revenue donations account, and $36,297 to expenditures.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this. Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's sort of like an extension of where we were. Am I to understand that the 350th committee is the umbrella, and the two of you are the co-chairs of that umbrella, that the events that we see the schedule all fall under that umbrella? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So you would be able to get us the budget for the parade as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's all, and I hope to get that. So I'd like to see, and is there a review every once in a while as far as whether or not you're under budget, over budget? And who does, you guys do that?
Yes, we have a number of committees set up to review each of the subcommittees own their own sub-budgets, and then we have a steering committee and a directors meeting, or directors committee as well. And our finance committee, which Nancy heads up, looks at that on a weekly basis.
Right, because I did look at the minutes on your website. I didn't see any, the ones that I looked at, I didn't glean from them a review of finances going on. Maybe it's going on, but I didn't see that in the minutes. So I'm glad that you're here tonight answering the questions. I look forward to seeing the budget, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else on the council? Questions from the public? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Fishbein,
Yes.
Laffin,
Yes.
Marone,
Yes.
Morgenstein,
Yes.
Shortell,
Yes.
Tata,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zandri,
Yes.
Chairman Cervoni.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Yes, it does. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
There being no further business on the agenda, a motion to adjourn is in order. Moved, seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare this meeting adjourned.